Jordan is here. Hey, Jordan. Yeah, we are live. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. And we have a very special guest, David. David is the creator of DeckDeckGo. And we are going to explore Stencil JS today. So it's really, I read a little bit docs about Stencil and I thought, okay, let's discuss Stencil because it looks very promising. So thanks a lot for joining, David.
Yeah, thank you, Santosh, for the invitation. Really happy to be here. Really cool.
So, David, would you like to actually introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, so I'm David. I come from Switzerland. And yeah, I'm a developer. I work for myself. And yeah, I built that tool you mentioned, DeckDeckGo. It's like my hobby side project because I really like open source and I like to share knowledge through that way. Yeah, basically it.
And yeah, what about this meetup?
So we like when I arrived in Zurich, like a couple of years ago, I started the Ionic meetup because at the same time I was trying to develop my first own app. And then I thought it would be a nice way to try to meet other developers who use the same technology in Zurich. Right now it's a bit more quiet because we can meet in person and we did some event online, but there is like it's a small meetup and kind of we are at the end almost friends. You always see the same person and yeah. But hopefully it will come back soon and that's gonna be nice. So
I hope so. Once this pandemic situation is over, probably you will have more people joining. Great. So let's talk about Stencil. So first, can you just introduce a little bit about what Stencil JS is?
Yeah, sure. So Stencil JS is a compiler for web components. So web components, briefly, are like any sorts of components you would build, except they are part of the standards of every browser. So that means that if you develop once, you can use it everywhere and with every technology. That means basically that you can code a component which gonna be compatible with React, which gonna be compatible with Angular, which gonna be compatible with JavaScript, and so on. So you really that principle of you write once and you use it everywhere. So yeah, and the Stencil basically compiles to that standards. So yeah, that's a nice compiler or bundler I began to use a couple of years ago. Yeah, we can say maybe Stencil is probably 2 or 3 years old, I would say. And it was created by the Ionic framework because they used to be like an Angular framework, but at some one point they wanted to bring the design system to other technologies like Vue or like React. So they had to rebuild their core. So they decided to rebuild the core with web component, and for that reason, they created their own compiler, which they shared with the community. So, yeah.
So what about learning curve? I mean, so if I understand, there are web components is already a standard, right? And then you have Angular, React, and now you can actually create web components from Angular itself, right? So what about Stencil? So what is the learning curve involved?
So first of all, I only use Stencil and vanilla web components, so I can really compare much with other web component builder because they are like 60 or more different web components bundlers, so you can really find different flavor of bundlers. And when I compare like writing a vanilla web component or using Stencil, it just eases the process. It's like when you write JavaScript strictly vanilla or you use Angular, then it's sometimes easier to write with Angular or with React because then you got some ease in the process. And then let's say that Stencil is kind of a mix of between what's good in Angular and what's good in React, I would say. kind of. So like React, it's usually you write JSX or TS6 because it's use TypeScript. So if you are familiar with React, it's gonna be really, I don't like to say easy, but it's gonna be easy to jump in because you're gonna feel comfortable. You know, you're gonna have function, you're gonna have a render function, it's return something, and so on, and there is all that approach of having a state and having properties. You're gonna be really familiar with that. And with coming from the Angular world, then, for example, the life cycle are easy to understand because you can kind of match them to what does an Angular component, or you're gonna have annotation that I'm gonna show you afterwards. So that's gonna be also. I mean, I come from. I have an Angular background, if we can say, and then I learned Stencil, and then I went to React. So I think it works in both ways, you know. So just like somewhere there in the middle when it comes to.
I was referring to the syntax, and I was like, okay, this looks like mix of React and Angular. So
Yeah, exactly. It uses TypeScript, so there is no vanilla version, so it leverage TypeScript. And yeah, I mean, coming from the Angular world, I think that's for the best, but that's from my point of view. And yeah, no, I have like one or two blog posts about introducing a bit JS6 for Angular developer. So if someone is interested, it's like, you know, when I compare, for example, how do you write ng4 in React or stuff like that. So, and once you got these basics, then I think it's quite, the speed comes really fast.
Oh, okay. So if I understand the rendering part, right, or you can say the template part is something which is taken from React. So you have to actually write your templates as per React, not Angular, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you're gonna have like you got one file with your code and what you're gonna render, like your div and so on, and then you got the CSS file on the side, and of course then you can use. So you can use, for example, Sass also, because when you build it, it's built on the top of Rollup. So if you want to use a Rollup plugin, then you can add it to your project and add Rollup hooks. So it's kind of nice too.
Okay, so is it like Angular or React where your configuration file is written, or you have those configuration file available with your workspace?
So there is like a stencil configuration file, which is in TypeScript. So you got all the typing support when you write your configuration, and then you can extend it. And then, for example, you can say, okay, I want a service worker, or I don't want a service worker. I want to generate the documentation, or I don't want to generate documentation. I want to add that plugin, and that plugin, and so on. So yeah, that's possible too. And yeah, something I mentioned too, that's something I really like, is that out of the box, there is like an automatic generation of the documentation. So when I document like my methods or my CSS variables or my properties, then when I build it, for each component, it's gonna generate a readme.md, like a markdown file with everything already commented. So that makes like my documentation really close to my code. And it's even also possible to hook on that documentation. So if you want to generate, I don't know, another format, or want to use the documentation to do something else, you can also hook on that and use it. So yeah, it's this kind of small goodie which makes the developer experience really, really nice.
So how about, I mean, so now everyone is using actually Storybook for your components documentation. So how about Storybook support?
So I use the Storybook version, the HTML version right now. But I read that the Storybook team is doing some exploration to see if they can have like an official support for Stencil. But right now you can use the HTML version and then include your web component in it, and that's gonna work. I don't have like an automatic property bindings. You know that when I had a property, that the property is automatically found in Storybook. But I think one of two other person of the Slack channel have done that. Because that's also something I like in Stencil. There is like a Slack channel, like with most of the project, but yeah, it's quite helpful. There is always someone who gonna have like either a project or gonna give a hand. So it's a small community, but really helpful with each other.
That's nice. Because of course, I mean, so by the native support, you mean something like right now Storybook has like Storybook /Angular and React packages, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So right now I just picked the default one, the HTML. So, but yeah, I mean, I rewatched the whole documentation of DeckDeckGo recently with the Storybook, so it was all right. And when I work for client and when I have to build for them component, I also include Storybook in the outputs. So yeah,
that's nice. So I mean, once they have support, it will make your life more easier then.
Yeah. But it's really not a hustle, I have to say. It's like it's kind of extra, but like there is one contributor have made a blog post on Medium, and you just follow the blog post and it works out, you know.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah.
So let's talk about the web component support. So as we already spoke, that Stencil.js is like a compiler which actually transform everything to web components. So what after that? So is it like I can just create entire website using Stencil, or it just gives you web components which you can actually go ahead and use in other components, other framework or libraries?
So you can do both. You can build components, you can build design system, or you can build whole apps, like building a progressive web app or a website or whatever. But I think the most common use case is writing component, writing a design system, like a lot of, I would say, and some are using for apps, but that works too. Like in DeckDeckGo, the whole editor is like a Stencil application. That's possible because there is like there is also a Stencil router. There is even like 2 routers. There is a Stencil store too. So yeah, you got all the tuning you need if you want to write an app too.
That's nice.
And yeah, it has some advantages because per default, every Stencil components are lazy loaded. So you don't really have to take care if they are or not. So as soon as you attach a Stencil component, it is de facto lazy loaded, which is kind of nice for performances.
Oh, nice. That's great, because in Angular you don't have any option. You have to actually just go ahead and lazy load your modules. So yeah. Okay, so let's take a question from Lars. So Lars has this question: any recommendation for packaging a Stencil web component library?
What I do, I think you can actually do both. You can have like either like one package with many components in it, and then you can specify in your configuration the list of components you have. You can for that you can set like the Ionic project. They do that. They have like one core, and in the core they have the list of components like the button, the bar, and so on. In my case, I got a lot of components which are really distinct, like a color picker and a code highlighter. You know, they are really distinct. So I do like separate components, and then you can have these in a monorepo and use Lerna to propagate the dependencies. If that answered the question, I hope so.
Yeah, I think last was more of like how you can actually create your own component library and package it. Is it like provided by default? For example, Angular, right? So in Angular, you can create a library and publish it. So,
yeah, it's like npm. So you got like a we can check afterwards, but basically you say npm init stencil, then you create your component, and then you publish it to npm.
Okay, so you can do that. So that's what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
question.
yeah, 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 exactly.
So you can create a library as well
Yeah.
using Stencil.
I can show you if you want, but
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you have
yeah.
something, you.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure, sure. Just share it so I can edit.
Ah, yeah, yeah. I was looking at the wrong place. Okay. Okay. Good. So, do you see my screen?
Yeah. And if I'm not wrong, you already have some components available as part of DeckDeckGo. If I'm.
Yeah, exactly. But just wanted to show you, it's like when you, it's not too small. I hope not.
Yes, a little bit. So if you can just zoom in.
Yeah. Sorry. Where was I? I was in presentation. Okay. Okay, that should be better, I hope.
Yeah, it's fine.
So there is like a CLI. So you're gonna start Stencil, and then you can basically see if you want like an Ionic PVA. So you got already like the Ionic router and all the Ionic inside. If you want more an app with all the Stencil router and stuff like that, or if you want to build a component or a collection of web components.
Yeah, this is what.
So here I'm gonna say that's like my component demo, right? And that's it. It's there. And good. And now basically you already have like your component which is set, and if you want to you can build it and then publish it to npm. You know what I mean? And if we have a look, it comes with a dummy component. So if I check here, I got like a default main component, and that's that basically.
Wow.
So yeah,
I can see a folder called utils. What you have there?
Sorry.
There is a folder called utils. If I just see in your
editor. It's because here there is like in the demo there is like a method here with some util functions.
Oh, okay.
And that's also one thing which is interesting. It comes. I'm not gonna run the test because otherwise Puppeteer is gonna be downloaded. But it comes with a unit test and end-to-end test. It's already set up for you. So when you're gonna run npm run test for the first time, Jest gonna be installed and Puppeteer gonna be installed. And so you can write tests for every single component or function you have.
Wow. So I mean, just curious here. So which framework or library they use for end-to-end and unit tests?
So here it's like it's Jest and
okay, for
like when I so when I run test, it told me that I should install Jest.
Okay.
And Puppeteer, basically.
Okay, and for end-to-end?
For end-to-end, it's Puppeteer.
It's Puppeteer. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And Jest for the spec test.
Oh, nice.
And you see, you got like you create like a page for your in the end-to-end. Then you set as a content your component, and then you can make the queries. And if you have a shadowed web component, you can pierce it with that signal here. So
that's nice. And they have already have a wrapper, right? So Stencil core testing that, which I can see. So it's not like they are directly using Puppeteer, but they have some higher level APIs on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's also kind of convenient to. But you got that with framework too, but it's convenient to have it out of the box, you know? Just take it and it's set, and then you can write your test.
Yeah, I mean,
And yeah, so basically, I don't know if I should, we can do a small demo. So maybe
Sure.
I will just check my font size if I find where it is. Polish, maybe. Font size. Oh yeah, let's do. Ah, that's big enough, huh?
Yeah,
So,
that's
so I just gonna a bit delete everything, so we got a fresh component, huh? So I just gonna let a div, huh? Okay. So when you install Stencil, when you run, it has like a built-in small server to develop your component. So here, of course, I'm just gonna write hello. So you see what I do here, same when I run start. And there is also live reloading. So when I'm gonna change my style, background red. Of course, that doesn't work because I have to do that. But
so it's like JSX syntax, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it has a live reloading depending on what you do. So let's say, so yeah, it's a JSX base. So you got a render function, and then you return your different object here. If you want to add some more argument, you're gonna have to do and so on. Huh? And then let's say you want to expose like to make it configurable for the outside. So for example, here we are using our component, which is called my component. Huh? So it's what I told you about the Angular way. It's like if I want to change the name of the component, I can change it here, like in the tag section, you know. Here, so then it's gonna becomes my component hello. So that kind of that Angular way of having a declaration at the top of the component to define the tag, the style, and so on. Huh?
Yeah.
Sorry. And then per default, the web components are shadowed. But if you don't want to have a web component but have a component, it's possible to remove the shadow, and then it's gonna be like a closed web component, and then it's gonna be fine. And there is also an option, if you want, you can also scope the CSS. So you got some options. You don't have to use shadowed web components. And what I do is often, like when I develop components, I do this as shadowed, but when I develop an app with Stencil, I mostly don't use shadowed so that I can pass the style and the class more easily. So if I want that, for example, that hello comes from outside of the component, I can add what's called the prop 30. And here we're gonna call it, I don't know, hello world, and we're gonna say, okay, we receive a string, okay? And then here, as in JSX, I'm gonna under the hello world. So that leaves us that here we can hello world. Except if I did something wrong. Yeah. I have changed the name of the component. Yeah. You see? So here you're going to have the properties. And when you are using HTML, then the properties are dashed. Like here you got hello world.
Okay.
Then it's dashed. But if you use JavaScript, then you're going to use that. Like, for example, if here I'm gonna just gonna wait that the DOM is loaded. Content loaded, I think. And when it's loaded, I'm gonna get the component. That one. Okay. And here I'm gonna say hello world slash equals like this, Okay, so that's what would you, if you would use a framework, then it's basically what you would do.
Yeah, because I think this is a web component standard, right? I mean, even if I just create a component using Angular, this will be the same.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing too is, you see, if I check I'm gonna make that bigger. You see here, I got my web component, and here we got what's inside. What I can do is I can, if I would need, like I got some option on the properties, like for example, I can say that I want to reflect it, and then the property gonna be added to the DOM too.
It's nice.
Then, so here, as I told you, we got some life cycle too. So if we check I have to say the Stencil website, the documentation is really, it's kind of well made. It's not too much. It's not enough. It's like the right side, and kind of you can go step by step through the different section, and you're gonna come by. So here you got all the charts, and you got like typically the wheel load, and then when it's connected, then there is a render, what's happened when something is changed, and so on. So, for example, here we can hook on the component wheel load, and yeah, let's say that we want to define that color here, okay? So here I define the color. I don't give it a value, and I'm gonna say purple, right? And then here I'm gonna use the color, okay? So that should not work. I know that it should not work, but I just gonna display that it doesn't work. It worked. I'm not happy about. Yeah, of course it worked. But let's say that's not clean code, but let's say I defer that, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see, nothing happens. The thing is that that's like a simple, let's call it variable of the component. When I modify that variable, there is no re-render. Like it's just like the code gonna change. The component itself not gonna be repainted. So if I want to a variable to have an impact on the render, I need to declare it as an internal state of the component.
Oh, change section.
So you can have that fine tuning between what should process on a re-render and what should not. So you can really for optimization, I think it's really nice. I think it's gonna work. I hope so, but yeah, you see, that works. And because it uses JSX, it's also worth to notice that it only, so it uses age, it only when there is like a re-render, it's not gonna repaint everything. It's just gonna repaint what's need to be repainted. You know, so it's kind of interesting. And as in Angular, you got like the onChange event, you know, where you can listen to what changes. And here you can have like that granularity on can add watch. So I can say, okay, I want to watch that particular state or property or whatever, and then just gonna do a console log.
So it looks like mix of everything. I mean, state is like something which is taken from looks like Svelte, and this watch looks like something taken from AngularJS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's nice.
it's kind of a mix, and you got also like when we are about Angular, you get also like event that would be like output in Angular.
Okay.
So you can have like my output, and that would be an event emitter, and then you can. So here we're gonna event a string, and then you're just gonna it looks really like that one looks really like Angular. I mean, it's even an event emitter, you know, and but then I should maybe
raise an event, change the color probably.
What did I do? This my I should restart. And if I add like so what's my event name? My event is my output. So I just attach an event on the onChange event from outside of the component, so we can see that we can catch it. Yeah, I still have a mistake somewhere. What did I do? My output. What do
should be is equals to? I mean, you have to create a new event, is it?
Sorry. At event.
Oh, okay. So it's
yeah. So basically, everything which is it's way better. And then we get all the custom. That's a custom event, like a custom event. And again, you got the property in the detail. And here I'm using string, but of course that can be objects. There is no limitation that sort. The only kind of limitation is like a web component limitation. Is like if you use an object for a property, when you are using like a vanilla JavaScript, you can say here and have my complex object. You know, not gonna write because it's still HTML. So if you want to use a complex object in JavaScript, then you have to set the value through a script. But that's not Stencil. That's like that's the definition.
That's the standard.
Yeah, exactly.
So generally, in Angular, what we do is we take it as a string and then we parse it to we take it as a string and then we parse it as like convert to object, right? So we parse JSON. That's what we generally do. Is it the same?
Yeah, you can do the same. Yeah, but I have to say most of the time I personally go through then JavaScript when it's somewhere. If it's a complex object, that means that it's too complicated to be just binded like that. But both works, yeah. And what you can have as in for example, as in React, if you don't want to have like in our example here, we got like a main div, but maybe we don't want to have like a div just to attach all the elements. So either you can do an array of elements, or you can have a fragment. The notion of fragment exists too. So I just have to close it properly. And then you see here, should refresh maybe. But here there is no more top element. And yeah. And you got also like a host property if you rather like to have a host. And the advantages of having a host is then, for example, if here I say, if I want to render a special attribute or like a class, I say I want hello everybody, everybody. Then you see on the class here, I'm gonna have the class on the. So I can do these things. And yeah, like I told you, like if I, for example, now I say, okay, this is a property to say hello, right? And I can do that on the event, but I'm gonna spare the time. If I build my component, I see that here in the README file, I got the property which is automatically described, you see, with all the property, attribute, description, and you're gonna have that for events, for everything. You can have methods too, and yeah. And so that's for the JSX. And as I told you earlier, you got like a config file, and in the config file, you can define all your outputs. Like I want the doc, I want a custom element bundle. That's when you, as I told you, it's like it generates a lazy loaded an ESM module. But with the custom bundle, you can also like generate one single JavaScript file which contains everything, if you don't want to use lazy loading.
Correct. Okay, so I think Lars had some questions, so let's take those. So first question was, any helpful libraries to implement component like common UI interactions? So
that's a good question. Like you mean like if you want to add some touch interaction, something like that, I guess, or like or more like a design system.
Exactly, I think is referring to that. For example, material, right? So
so yeah, you can use Ionic.
Okay.
And Duets has some components, and of course I forget the last one from my friend, but there is also another one which I should which I can search afterwards. Yeah, yeah, there are some.
Okay, so I think there was another question. So class fixated like Angular, no way of doing functional components?
Yeah, you can do functional component too. I can show you. I'm not gonna write one, but for example here, I often use functional component to inject styles inside the shadow DOM.
Oh, that's nice.
That's something I like to do. Like for example here, okay, that's maybe a bit a bigger one. I'm gonna take that one. So here you see I got like a, that's the name of my component, functionals component. I can define the property props, and then it returns again something. So in my case, it returns a style. And then you can, in your return method, call it like that. Wow. I don't know. Like this works too. Nice. Nice. I found the typo in my code. That's nice. But yeah, that works.
Okay, so I think that was another question. Let me check. And I think there was something related to types, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so how about creating TypeScript types for a stencil program web component library? So
yeah, when you build your component, you can also export the typings of your component. Like I got that in that one, I think. Yeah, you see here I export the components. So when I gonna use that components in my stencil app, then I gonna have I'm gonna have supports. Then it's no problem to add interfaces or type declaration, that's TypeScript, it works out. And if you want, for example, to use the component in React or Angular or Vue, Stencil has also some bundles. So it's like you're gonna add at the top of your component, you're gonna add a wrapper, which gonna even makes more easier to use the component in React and so on.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
so you can, I don't have to find where it is, but you kind of have like a, let me check where I did that. I should have like probably like component like that. Yeah, no. So you see, okay, web font. So here, for example, I got like that's my blah 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 open source. That's my that's a web component to apply web photo, apply Instagram filters on images. Huh? You see, you give an images and then you can apply them.
Wow.
And to ease the process to use it in and that's just as we saw before, that's like that's a component. Huh? But to ease the process of using it in React, because I use it in a React app, I've made like a web photo filter, the version on React. And then that's like, you don't have to change that. It comes from the starter kit. And then you're gonna add your, I'm gonna add my component inside, and it's gonna build the wrapper I need to use it more easily in React.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of nice. Like I think, like typically in Angular, I think it helps you to bind the events. Otherwise, it works out of the box. Or if you use a web component in Angular, you have to add the what was it called, the custom Noshima, or what's the name again? Yeah. So, and if you use the Angular wrapper, then you don't have to add that custom Noshima, because then the web component is recognized as a component. I think that should be tested, but I think, yeah.
That's nice. So, that's great. I mean, so let's take. I mean, just wanted to know. You have been using Stencil for so long, so I'm sure there might be some features which you like. So, what are the top 3 features you like about Stencil?
So the thing is, like, at first I like web components because I can use them everywhere, and it's really convenient for me because I switch between Angular, React, and JavaScript all the time. So I like to have one component once. Maybe I can show that screen. I don't know if you see. I made like a small screenshot like a couple of days ago. You see, that's basically my ecosystem. I got Storybook with my component for color. Then I got DeckDeckGo, which is a stencil app with the same. Here I got some vanilla because I do development with vanilla. And here I got a React Ionic app, which work on iOS with the same component. So for me, I just save time by using this, So, and then, so I'm really happy to have used Stencil because, as I told you, had that Angular background, and through it, it's also opened me in a kind of a new world, I would say. And I really like the developer experience because I got everything I like TypeScript, all it work like with the decorator, and I like JSX now. I have to admit I rather like JSX than templating in Angular now, but yeah. It's okay. And also I like that I can generate my README file. I like that the tests are there. So yeah, no, it's really it's a great developer experience, I would say.
Great. So any limitations which you have faced while working on Stencil?
So I got one limitation right now, but I hope it's gonna be solved. It's like I'm really looking forward to use ASBuild and Vite.
Right. Yeah.
And right now it doesn't work well because ASBuild has some trouble with dynamic import, and because Stencil are de facto everything is loaded and dynamically imported, it doesn't work well. But there are like one issue open in Stencil and one issue open at ASBuild, so I guess that sometimes there will be a solution.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that will make it really fast.
Yeah. I mean, I play a bit with ASBuild because I wrote some plugin recently, and I'm like, it's it's one of my new love. I have to say, it's a really nice bundler. But so that would be the current issue. But I mean, that's gonna be solved. It's not like a no-go. It's just like a temporary issue, you know.
Yeah. What about bundle size? I mean, so have you ever compared bundle size in Angular, or I mean, if you...
So I can recommend, like on webcomponents.dev, they have a comparison of all the, like they've got a hello world or something like that, and they make a comparison between all the different bundler. And Stencil is kind of, it's not the smallest one, but it's well ranked. I don't know if I have that. Web components.dev comparison, maybe. Yes, I got it. I don't know if I can show you.
Yeah. I mean, you can share it in private chat if you want to share the link.
Yeah, sure. And they always make it. Here you got.
Okay. Is it updated with the latest changes?
Yeah. They say May 2021, and generally speaking, is pretty fair. They got a good position. Maybe not the biggest one, but by far not the fastest one, but not the bigger neither. No, and it's but the good thing is it's like one of, like the other dedicated web components, I would say, not like in Angular, is that what you are building, there is no trace in Stencil in the output. So the output is the API, it's like web standards.
Wow.
And that's probably, my guess, one of the reasons why some web components bundler make smaller bundles are others. One of the major reasons, I would say.
Got it. Cool. So let's. Almost we don't have any questions in chat, so we are almost done with the questions as well. What about learning Stencil, right? So what are your go-to resources?
So the website of Stencil is a really good resources. I think because you got all about Stencil, but you got also like one chapter about JSX. So if you don't know JSX, then you're gonna have like the 5 examples you need to get started. And then there is like the Slack channel of Stencil. So you're gonna find help there if you need. And there is also like a shameless promotion channel. And each time someone builds something or promote an article, he or she gonna share that there. So it's a nice way to find some new interesting subject, I would say.
That's nice.
And and of course then you can follow people on Twitter which are using Stencil, and that's another way.
Oh, that's great. So next question to you, David. So in case someone has some question on Stencil, where they can reach out?
Yeah, what I say, it's like the first entry point is the Slack channel, and everybody can always ping me, that's for sure. And on Twitter. Exactly.
Background, so you can always ping him, and David will be happy to help.
I think that's basically it. And but yeah, there is a nice small bunch of contributors which are really motivated to help each other. So you're gonna for sure find help.
Thank you for sharing that. And what about, so is there anything you want to promote on the channel?
Oh, yeah, it's always like I don't know. It's always difficult to make promotion, but so yeah, I can talk about my one of my biggest hobby in the open source world is building that presentation tools called DeckDeckGo. So it's DeckDeckGo.com. And yeah, if you have a talk or if you want to make quick small presentation, you can try out the tools and yeah.
That's nice. By the way, I mean, most of the projects are open source. So, is there any way community can help you? I mean, in case they want to help, so what are the projects you are looking at where people can come and contribute?
So I think DeckDeckGo is probably like the biggest one, I would say. We got some issue which are flagged as what do you say, newcomer. Yeah, exactly. I try to have some which are properly documented. I do my best. Not always the case, but if it's not well documented, you can always ping me. And it's a monorepo, so you're gonna find all our application, website, all the components we have, everything at the same place. So it's kind of nice.
So I'll add this link to the repository in the description, so you can refer it later on. But
yeah, sure.
I mean, in case you want to get started with Stencil, I think that's the best opportunity for you. You already have I've seen DeckDeckGo, and it has a lot of functionality. So I'm sure David is like putting a lot of time and effort to make it and work on it. So yeah, so I'll just go ahead and help him. So if you have some time.
Yeah, it's funny because I do the DeckDeckGo with a friend, and I sent him like a video cast this morning of a new functionality, and he answered me, but it's not already the case. And I told him, no, it's new. And he said, I totally lost track. I don't know what's in it or what's not in it anymore. So yeah, okay. It's a fun project.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen. I mean, there are a lot of functionalities. You have done an amazing job there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's also I can learn a lot with it, So I like to build concrete things to learn, and that's kind of a nice way to do it.
Great. Yeah, so I think we are done. So let's on closing notes. So let me just tell you about the next week. So next week we have 2 episodes coming up. So first one is on Wednesday, 26th. So we will be talking about Laravel, and it's not what Laravel is, but it's more about how Laravel team works. So it's internal. So I mean, how they take the feature request, or how they implement new features. So and how the team works. So it's all about Laravel team. And then on Friday we have Nader Debit, who is joining us to talk about AWS Amplify. I'm sure most of you already know who Nader Debit is. So he was developer advocate for AWS, and now he has left AWS. But yeah, he's now into crypto. So he'll be joining us next Friday, 10 p.m. ST same time. And that's it for the day. Hey Pooja, really sorry. I think you joined an hour earlier, and then we had to actually postpone it because of some time mismatch, but thanks for joining, Pooja. And you can, of course, watch the recording later on. And thanks again, David. It was really interesting to see Stencil. It was like, we learned a lot, to be frank. And thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It was really my pleasure. Really, really nice opportunity. Thank you. And yeah, I hope that it motivated you to give a try to Stencil.
Sure, for sure. I'll try that out. And so in case anyone of you wants to try Stencil and you get into some issues, of course, docs are there. But in case you get stuck, feel free to approach David, and he'll be happy to help you.
Sure.
So, see ya. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.